Production funding for Flying Squirrels Insider is made possible in part by the Buick LaCrosse, a luxury sedan available at your local Buick dealer. Experience Buick.
In the air to right field. This one hit deep. Miller heading back, watching it fly, and Perez has given the Squirrels the finale. Welcome once again, everybody, to Flying Squirrels Insider. I'm your host, Jon Laaser, and we've got another action-packed show for you today as the 2013 season heats up into the summer months. Wes McElroy, Jay Burnham, and I will show you why Virginia product Jarrett Parker is about to take off, and we'll examine the continued excellence of top prospect Joe Panik. Plus, Tom Vesella of Vesella Productions and the Squirrels bullpen joins us on FSI Field to show you how he has transformed into one of the top pitchers in the Eastern League. But we begin today on a serious note as we take you along on the courageous journey of Adam Duvall as he works to return to the Squirrels lineup. Any athlete will tell you the same. A part of them is afraid. Afraid of something that they can't entirely see, that they can't wholly understand. It is not a person or even a day that haunts them, but rather a moment of freak circumstances that in an instant robs them of the game they have loved their whole life. For Flying Squirrels third baseman Adam Duvall, that moment arrived on an otherwise mundane Sunday in Trenton, New Jersey. Recently named the Eastern League's Player of the Week, Duvall was basking in another day on the verge of stardom. And then it happened. When a routine ground ball became much more, much worse. In a heartbeat, an errant throw became a swipe tag. A pleasant afternoon became a nightmare. In a gruesome scene, one of the very hands that makes Duvall one of the game's best was badly mangled. FSI does withhold the video due to its graphic nature, and instead, we take you along with Duvall on his improbable and courageous journey of recovery.
You know, Adam's just really got a minor thumb sprain. I've seen it 100 times in my career. Doesn't have to do much with it, just a little bit of rehab. Got that back, and he'll be fine.
Immediately, the seemingly indestructible 24-year-old knew that the feared life-changing moment had arrived. In a span of only 10 seconds, his mind wandered through a lifetime of playing and loving the game, and pondered if Arm & Hammer Park in Trenton, New Jersey would be the end of his baseball journey.
Yeah, so I didn't think it was that bad. I just kind of slid into the base and thought I would stay in the game.
When the tragic happens, there is a process. Every athlete must go through it. For Duvall, acceptance of an excruciatingly long and unsure timetable for recovery was the most difficult step.
After the injury happened, we got an X-ray, MRI, pretty standard, test to do on something like this. And the results looked good. I mean, it was going to be about 4 weeks from the start.
Yeah, they let me know as soon as possible it's going to be 3 to 4 weeks. Try to keep my timing back, and it'd be a short deal.
When the severity of what he was now facing finally sunk in, Duvall came to the realization if he had any chance of returning to the field, he would be forced to go endure a vicious rehabilitation program designed to break even the most diligent before it builds them back up again.
Boy, one more, push it! The thumb's interesting. It's not like a shoulder or a knee. There's not a whole lot of rehab you can do with it, Pretty much Adam just puts his hand in a bucket of ice every day.
Yeah, it wasn't that big of a deal. Just kind of hung out with the guys, laid around the clubhouse, slept a little bit, and just waited for it to get better.
He was willing to do the work, but he would do it alone. In baseball, the injured quickly become the isolated. Duvall's friends and teammates withdrew from him, looking at him, a graphic reminder that their own moment might be out there somewhere.
'Cause, I mean, you got to be able to do something like this. You know, pretty much Adam just puts his hand in a bucket of ice every day. Yeah, it wasn't that big of a deal. Just kind of hung out with the guys, laid around the clubhouse, slept a little bit, and just waited for it to get better.
He was willing to do the work, but he would do it alone. In baseball, the injured quickly become the isolated. Duvall's friends and teammates withdrew from him, looking at him, a graphic reminder that their own moment might be out there somewhere. Understanding of his teammates' distance, but stung by it nonetheless. A figure that once shone more brightly than any other in the Squirrels clubhouse was forced to quietly retreat within himself to find the road back alone.
Yeah, I really haven't noticed anything different about Adam. He's still around, crushing a lot of spread, like always, drinking a lot of chocolate milk. He does have me go up and get a few more hot dogs from the concession stand.
Yeah, the guys have really been supportive of me. Hanging out in the clubhouse, horsing around, having a good time.
Same old Doobie, really, man. I mean, we haven't really noticed he's been on the DL. He's pretty much hanging out.
Adam Duvall has been to the edge of the baseball cliff, looked over, and while smiling to himself, stepped back from it. He has done the work, kept the faith, and beaten the odds. He is set to return to the Flying Squirrels lineup this week. And when he steps into the batter's box for the first time, he'll do so with the renewed appreciation of a man who knows he nearly lost it all and overcame seemingly insurmountable struggles to once again chase his dream.
Minor injuries like this happen all the time in baseball. Adam's injury isn't really that significant or special in any way. It'd be good to have him back in the lineup, though.
Just gonna pick up, where I left off, and hopefully everything goes smooth.
Powerful, powerful stuff from Adam Duvall.
Liz, man, I have no idea what you're talking about. I just talked to Adam today. He's fine.
You're right, big guy. You keep the faith. He will be fine. And so will we. More FSI right after this. And welcome back to Flying Squirrels Insider. I just don't get why people don't see the severity of Adam Duvall's injury. Thanks to Adam and the fellas for taking part in that segment. We'll talk about the expected return of the Flying Squirrels third baseman in just a second with my co-hosts Jay Burnham and Wes McElroy. But first, we have to get the important things out there to you. Remember, as always, text FSI during Flying Squirrels Insider to 44544, and we're going to hook you up with some free Flying Squirrels stuff. Also, beautiful Buick Lacrosse on set with us here today as we do a number of things on FSI this afternoon, and that's thanks to our proud partners, the GMC dealers of Richmond and the Buick dealers here in the RVA. With that, we bring in Jay Burnham, Wes McElroy, and guys, first things first. I know it's 90 degrees now as we're taping this, but it was downright cold during the Flying Squirrels road trip into the middle of the May. Jay, you've been in this league for a while. You've seen anything like this?
Yeah, not quite. I mean, it has been cold, especially for your last trip to Harrisburg and Altoona. I grew up in Massachusetts. It's part of the reason why I went to school in Hawaii, to get away from things like this, indeed. But the thing that I think has stuttered this team a little bit is the rainouts and the rain that they've had to deal with the last homestand. Certainly not to the success that we would have liked to have, back-to-back rainouts. And for the players on the field, that certainly means that they're not getting the fluidity, they're not getting the rhythm that they like to get into.
Wes, you've been a resident now of the RVA for, I believe, 5 years. I've been here for 4 years. It's been cold here, too, and we've seen that at the Diamond, as Jay mentioned, back-to-back rainouts, something that's never happened in Flying Squirrels history.
No, you hit that last week of April, and it was just cold and raw, and then you still had nice days, but you had chilly nights. We got the back-to-back rainouts, and then the rain, or the cold weather seemed to follow you guys, the rain in Altoona, and then that cold front that came through when you were in Harrisburg, just followed you right up 95.
My mom's always said that a storm cloud has followed along wherever I've gone. I'm kind of like Linus in that way. But you always hear the expression warming with the weather. Now, that is somewhat of a cliche to say that it takes guys a little bit of time to get their timing, and it usually coincides with the weather. But there's a truth to it, too. Some guys like hitting in warm weather. Actually, a lot of guys do. Jarrett Parker, Jay, doesn't seem to be one of those guys. He's warmed even as the weather hasn't.
Yeah, and he's put together a fantastic stretch and a very encouraging stretch to the start of the season for Parker. He's done so with a different approach at the plate. He's been a lot more consistent this year. And I think when we talked with hitting coach Kenny Joyce at the beginning of the season saying, hey, what will be a successful year for Jarrett Parker? And he said, limit the strikeouts. And that's something he's been able to do, not only limit the strikeouts, but hit in a variety of places in the batting order, including most recently leadoff, adding that power that he has. And this is a guy that not too long ago was heralded as one of the top Giants prospects, and he can certainly put himself back into the discussion with a solid year here.
Giants wanted to change his scenery. They made no secret about that fact. Let's get him back to his side of the country on the East Coast. Let's get comfortable. Wes, you talked to him the other day. He seems like he is.
He really is. He's done a lot of work to get himself better, but it's been more mental toughness. And I got a chance to talk to him. He referenced guys like Roger Federer, Derek Jeter, Tiger Woods, guys that he looks up to.
Jon Laaser.
Jon Laaser. He knew that it would eventually come around. He talked with Ken Joyce. He didn't do anything with his swing, but he just said the comfort factor. I asked him, I said, not to outthink the room, just being home, being in this environment. He said it's going a long way. And he credited his mom and his sister. He said that they don't know baseball. They don't know his swing. They said they know him. And I guess there was a conversation, a good talk between him and his mom and his sister. Just relax, be who you are. And Ken Joyce did his work, but let's face it, sometimes mom knows you best.
Well, Ken Joyce is a good den mother, but maybe not necessarily a great mother overall. And Wes, you look at that comfort level, and you talk about that all the time in baseball, and it's true. If you're comfortable in your routine, if you're comfortable in your spot in the batting order, you're going to perform better. For Andrew Susac, Jay, we've got the numbers in. Right. Clearly, he's more comfortable right now, not carrying that torch at the bottom of the order. Adam Duvall expected to be back during this homestand. That's going to help Andrew and some of the other guys.
Yeah, it's going to help not only Susac, but this entire Squirrels lineup. And you like having that sneaky power at the bottom of the order for Susac. Maybe he's a little more comfortable down there, although as we tape this on a Thursday, he had a four RBI ball game to conclude the road trip. So I think he's maybe a little more comfortable in the bottom of the order. Maybe you can get away with some things. Maybe the pitcher lets up on you a little bit more. But it's been an impressive start to the season for him as well. And when you add Duvall into the mix, hopefully we get him back soon, as you see with the piece we just did. It's a pretty fearsome lineup.
Duvall, in all seriousness, is expected to be back during the Trenton series at some point at the backside of this week-long homestay. And the bad news for that is, with National League games on the horizon, you lose at-bats from Mark Minikazi. He's been your catalyst in that 3-spot, 4-spot, 5-spot. Wes, you need to get Kaz at-bats, and you might not be able to do so.
No, you might not be able to. Think about this, and I actually crunched the numbers. Since that Trenton series...
Doing work while we were on the road.
Trying to. Think about this. Since that Trenton series, when Duvall left the lineup, this team has batted with 5 runs per game. Now, you have a couple games in there where there were 1-run games. You had a couple of those 15-run games. But you're talking almost an average of 5 runs per game, and now you're bringing a guy back into a lineup with a 378 batting average when he left. You compound that to cold weather, stops and starts because of the rain delay. They're really producing. You credit Mack, you credit Ken Joyce. They've really got things going. And you will have to find Mark Minikazi, who had a nice hitting streak going on, picked it back up yesterday, that final game in Harrisburg. He's getting things going. You'll just have to find a way to work him in, but it'll be great to have Duvall back in this lineup.
Ken Joyce said his proudest moment as a hitting coach over 3 years with this team was when they came out and swung the bats in a loss to score 8 runs against Altoona after they'd been rained out on back-to-back days. So clearly, he understands the timing is a key. And Jay, one guy I don't think it necessarily matters as much to some of the other guys is Joe Panik, because he's just got that sweet swing. He's going to be consistent, it seems like, whoever he's facing, wherever he goes.
Yeah, he might be the best hitter that I've seen in this league over the last 4 years. I know Anthony Rendon has put a name for himself this season with Harrisburg. He's one of the top hitters in this league, but Joe Panik makes it look easy, and it's just one of the most impressive things you see. He's not a big guy. He doesn't drive the ball for a ton of power. He doesn't have a whole lot of speed, but he's just been able to hit consistently. And when you ask players, especially at this level, what's the one thing that they want most? Consistency, and Joe Panik has it, and I wouldn't be surprised if Joe isn't here for the entire season.
And let me ask you that. You see him all around. You've seen his defense come around. You see his offense. Any chance we see him move on before the summer's up?
I think there is. I don't know if I would have said that coming out of spring training, just because we've seen guys come to this level and struggle. Gary Brown most recently. Now, he got hot about this time of the year and then tapered off at the end. Giants really wanted him to move level to level. I think that that's still the plan for Panik to be here until at least August and really be the front end of the order catalyst for this team. But at the same time, I can see if an injury were to happen to a Marco Scooter or somebody else, I think the Giants look at this guy as a major league caliber bat right now, and potentially he can move on. Jay, you mentioned Anthony Rendon in that last response. The Squirrels saw him yesterday in Harrisburg. First of all, let me say, I think he's a stud, but guess who else is? Our own Tom Vesella. He strikes him out in a big spot yesterday, announcing his arrival, so to speak, as the leader of this bullpen. What is different in Tom Vesella than maybe where he was 2 years ago?
Well, you know, Vesella has been a very interesting case, and he's been a project for this organization, and he's actually took kind of the mantle as the leader in the bullpen, essentially, and he's been able to give the team innings when they need to give him innings. He's been able to get guys out in situational spots, as you mentioned the other day in Harrisburg. So he's been able to do a little bit of everything, and when you have starting pitching, as the Squirrels have had this year, that hasn't been able to go deep in ball games, Vesella's your guy that you just have as kind of a utility man of the bullpen, and it's been a great role for him thus far.
Wes, you remember him a couple of years ago, maybe not as extensively as I did, but he was a project. There was no two ways about it, and he has taken an intelligent path, I feel like, to become the pitcher he is now.
Yeah, I remember talking to Russ Grimsley and Ross said he's got to learn to throw strikes. That was 2 years ago. He's learned to throw strikes, but he's become a very smart pitcher. He's become a just get the out type of pitcher. And this is a guy, you said intelligence. This is a guy who, and I had him on my radio show a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about how he built the urinal in the bullpen out in right field. He's a guy who's created an iPad.
I built a urinal once. It was called a tree.
He created an iPad holder for the bus. He's got intelligent smarts. But you see this in average human beings where they have the book smarts, but they don't have the street smarts. Tom Vesella's got the book smarts, and now he's got the baseball smarts. And that is why, with the exception of a rough outing yesterday, that's why he's got like a 1.16 ERA.
And we're going to get those smarts right here on the set of FSI. We're going to talk to Tom about some of those inventions, and then we're going to also show him how he works on his pickoff moves and part of his other craft and how he's become the pitcher that he is. But before we do, some big news over the last week. Justin Fitzgerald, who's really been the unofficial ace of this staff over the last couple of years, playoff hero back in 2011, Jay, he moves on to AAA. It creates the opportunity and that flow from San Jose. How are some of those young arms looking that we're talking about potentially being here later in the year?
Well, first of all, congratulations to Justin Fitzgerald. It's certainly a long time coming, and we'll hope he succeeds up at the AAA level. Hopefully you never see him again, to be honest with you, because that means he isn't back here at AA. You're looking at San Jose, some of the arms that might be on their way. Of course, the big name is Clayton Blackburn, who hasn't dominated the California League, which again is a very hard league to pitch in, but he's put together a decent start to the season. And the other name, Kyle Crick, who's on the disabled list, and he has been out after his first 3 starts. So there's some names there that I guess are doing well. They're winning ball games, but I don't think we're going to be seeing them, and I think you could speak to this more intelligently, that we're not going to be seeing them at least until after the All-Star break or beyond. They have been hitting the ball. They've got a guy named Devin Harris, who's 25 years of age, who had home runs in 6 consecutive ball games. He's got 10 home runs on the season. So there's some talent coming through, but it's just not here yet.
And how about our old friend Ryan Cavan, who was just on a 19-game hit streak for San Jose? They are easily atop the California League in terms of overall records. So there's talent in the lower levels of the pipeline. Squirrels hanging around that 500 mark, staying in that race, and hoping to be primed if and when they get infused. We'll get some with Adam Duvall coming back into this lineup as well. Well, we just talked about the intelligence of Tom Vesella. Hopefully he was intelligent enough to find his way to the studio. We know he is. He joins us next. We'll get his thoughts on the beginning of the year, some of the FSI bits that we've done and will do, and also we'll set up how he's going to pick off Wes McElroy at the end of this show. Tom Vesella and a surprise guest, and Chris Glore joins us when FSI continues. Welcome back to Flying Squirrels Insider. We have taken it to FSI Field, and we have welcomed in our good friend Tom Vesella, of course the president of Vesella Productions, and also left-hander out of the Flying Squirrels bullpen. And Tommy, good to have you here. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Lace. Appreciate it.
We've got to run the gamut with you. That's what we do because you're a little bit more interesting. No offense to your teammates, particularly Daryl Madej. I'm sorry, Daryl. But we're going to talk a little bit about the show. We're also going to talk about a great start to the season for you. And I want to start there because I got to know you back in 2010 as a project. I've called you that before, and you haven't punched me in the face, so I think you're cool with it.
I appreciate it. No, I appreciate it. It's okay.
Well, what's different now? You've become the most relied upon guy out of the bullpen, seemingly for Dave McElroy in 2012, something that really was unfathomable back in 2010.
Right. I think the biggest thing for me is actually having a breaking ball. You know, back in 2010, I didn't really have anything, and if I ever tried, it was going to hit the backstop. When I got sent down to Augusta, I really got a chance to work with Steve Klein, and he helped me out a lot. And in my travels coming up through the organization, dealing with the other pitching coaches, I really got a chance to find who I was as a pitcher, and that's really helped me now going into the season.
Today we did a little bit of a mockumentary on Adam Duvall. He was a great sport with it, but where did that originate from?
Well, you know, ESPN will do HBO Sports and all that stuff. They'll do these spots on these really sappy, over-the-top bits on guys coming back from injury and stuff like that. So we really wanted to play off of that, and Duvall did a great job at with everything he did.
What's upcoming from Vesella Productions?
We've got Deep Thoughts from the Dugout with Chris Glore. That's going to be a great one because you always want to see what that mind's thinking about. We've got, what else do we have? We've got
Deep Thoughts. That's going to debut on the next show. And then we've also got a Cheers spoof that we're going to do with every guy on the team at some point.
How we prepare for the game pre-game.
But this is my favorite. You were in last year, and you did a brief Ross Grimsley impersonation. You also did a John Gruden impersonation.
Right.
We're going to do Grims visits Grims because your staffmate Taylor Rogers does a great Ross Grimsley impersonation as well. So we're going to do modern-day pitching coach Grims visits 1970s era Grims the pitcher.
Well, every time Grims comes out to the mound, it's going to be it's going to be a treat. So we're going to definitely share that with the rest of the folks.
What does he say to you guys when he comes out? He tells me after the game what he supposedly said. I don't believe it.
No, it's really brief. It's short, and it's to give you a taste. It's like, just throw strikes. Just throw the ball over the plate and do something.
What do you respond with? Just a nod?
Always. Can't say anything.
Well, that's what we do here, too. We nod when they tell us to do things. They're telling us it's time for a break. We're going to come back, though, and Tom Vesella is going to show you one of the weapons in a left-hander's arsenal, the pickoff move, plus the origin of the breaking ball that he now uses to be effective. Tom, we were just chatting about really a resurgence in your career from the early days to now. You've become one of the more reliable options in the Flying Squirrels bullpen. The key's been the breaking ball. So we're going to show people how you do that. Let's start with the grip, because it's a little bit different. You've made a change to it.
Right. I mean, the big thing for me is actually getting it deep into my hands and then where my thumb actually goes. For a lot of guys, when it comes up and you get the bottom half of the baseball, it's going to pop up and you're not going to have much control. But for me, I got it deep into my hand and I moved my thumb up a little bit, and that really helps keep the ball on track when it goes to home plate.
You like that bright white pearl we got for
I do.
the TV taping?
It feels
I wanted
great.
to make this realistic, so this is a pre-scuffed baseball for Tom Vesella. Well, show us how you throw that. You throw it a little bit differently, particularly from that left side. You're trying to start it at the body most of the time.
Pretty much. I'm going to try and start it right there on the inside part of the plate to a lefty, basically try and hit him in the hip. And my key for me when I throw it is to get the baseball to my ear and then really just come straight down as far out as I can.
Well, there's the breaking ball for Tom Vesella. You've also become more polished in a number of areas, including your pickoff move. We want to show that to folks as well, but we need some more characters. Where will we get more characters? Oh, that's right. We've got Wes McElroy to be our base runner and Chris Glore to serve as our first baseman. We're going to use them in just a second for an example of how you may or may not be able to pick off a guy. But first, let's just run through that pickoff move, because it's always intrigued me as a left-handed pitcher, the options that you have, but the rules that you also must abide by.
Right. Well, the whole point is when you're going to pick off, you have to make it seem like you're actually going to be throwing to first base. A balk is if you intend to deceive the runner in any way. So the whole point is get your feet going toward at a 45-degree angle and make sure your upper body looks as close as it would if you're throwing home.
We hear the term go on first move, and that's what you're saying. To be deceptive, that first move has to be towards home plate. Now, as a left-hander, as you mentioned, that 45-degree angle, you can get a little bit creative. I'm not going to call you cute, won't do it, but you can get a little creative in how you make that look, and that's why lefties have a lot more success.
We definitely flirt with that angle as best we can. Phil McCormick, who's got the best pickoff move on the staff, is naturally going to be amazing with what he does when he throws to first base.
Why is that? Because he steps as a sidewinder kind of that angle already, so that can be very confusing. You don't see guys get off to a very big lead against it.
No, when he's actually throwing to home plate, it looks like he's going to throw to first, and when he's throwing to first base, it looks like he's going to be throwing home.
All right, just show us your pickoff move here and how you flirt with that line to the 45 degrees, and then we're going to see if our own Wes McElroy can read your first move and try to get a good jump off you.
Got it.
Got a pretty good look there.
He did.
But that time, I don't think you were flirting with the line. You were pretty close to first base there. Let's make it a little bit more deceptive, and we'll see if Wes can read this one. This is your B move, as we like to call it. So once again, a little bit more deceptive, but he can still somehow tell. We're giving him the cues right now. We like to call this the beginner's course. We're going to advance it in just a second here. All right, so Wes is getting confident because you gave him that B move. Now, what are the reasons for doing that? You'll do that sometimes. We'll see a guy just lob the ball over to first base. We'll see, like I said, a casual step there, just trying to throw him off,
right.
not let him get his timing.
Exactly. If you can screw up his timing and really make him comfortable over there, then you might be able to sneak one in and get the guy off.
What do you use the lob toss and the soft step, or just one or the other?
It depends on the day.
It just depends on what his mood is that day. Here comes the soft toss over to first base. Do you ever use the slide step?
Sometimes. The slide step is just another way to actually let him know that you're controlling the running game. So if I slide step toward home, he's not going to be able to react to anything that I do.
And that gives your catcher a better chance, Andrew Susak, Mark Wagner, as it were, because he's got to be closer and he has a longer time to get to second base. Okay, now it's time for the advanced course with Wes McElroy running from first base. We're not going to tell him what you're doing, whether you're going to the plate, whether it's the B move, the A move. We're going to mix it all in on Wes. We're going to do it a couple of times and see who gets the best of it. Tom Vesella or Wes McElroy? Betting money's on the lefty. Oh, got a good jump off you that time. He did. That's the first round to Wes. And I'm not sure if that's going to happen again. That was a strike, by the way, on Jay Burnham, who's batting behind the camera. Oh, squared him up at one piece. I love the look on his face. He thought that one was coming in harder. He thought Chris Clore was going to take him out with a hard tag here. All right, this one's for all the marbles here. Round 3, Vesella v. McElroy, pay-per-view. Oh! Wes got back in, but he did so at the cost of his forehead. That's something else you can do, by the way. You can throw wide. There's a number of things you can do, unwritten rules, to really make a runner uncomfortable. We're going to go ahead and give you the benefit of the doubt and say that you did that time. Wes McElroy, your winner, Tom Vesella. Thanks to the boys over there, though. Tommy, thanks for being here, man. Thanks for everything throughout the year with the show as well.
Appreciate it, Les. Good to be here.
The one and only Tom Vesella, scriptwriter and left-hander extraordinaire. He joins us, and he'll be a big part of the show going forward. Unfortunately, we're out of time for today. Our thanks to a cast of seemingly hundreds on this week's show and for our entire crew. I'm Jon Laaser. We'll see you next week from FSI.
Production funding for Flying Squirrels Insider is made possible in part by the GMC Terrain, available at your local GMC dealer. We are professional grade.